Hello, everyone. Wish you a very happy new year. Have a great 2025. Well, welcome back to a new season of Vintage Club Conversations. We have an exciting season ahead with great guests, a new format, and more actionable learnings and insights than before. This week, our featured guest is Jonathan Lee, Chief Revenue Officer at BambooHR. Welcome, Jonathan.
Jonathan Leaf is the Chief Revenue Officer at BambooHR, a leading SaaS company redefining HR management. BambooHR empowers organizations with award-winning solutions that streamline tasks from hiring to retiring, automating processes like onboarding, payroll, and benefits management so HR teams can focus on impactful strategic initiatives. In his role, Jonathan oversees all revenue-driving functions, including business and sales development, pre-sales, sales operations, enablement, and partner channels, ensuring BambooHR's continued growth and customer success.
Jonathan, you're now in your second role running the sales and revenue function of a very, very large company. We would love to hear more about your professional background. Can you give us a quick overview of your journey so far and what has led you to where you see right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Manisha, first off, thank you for the time and the opportunity to be a part of this great session. I certainly appreciate it. Yeah, so I am currently the Chief Revenue Officer at BambooHR. We right now are about 1,500 employees supporting 35,000 or so customers. Prior, I led commercial sales for an organization named RingCentral. RingCentral does unified communications as a service, as well contact center as a service. And what running commercial sales ultimately meant was it was about $1.5 billion run rate business supporting upwards of about 350,000 customers. And then prior to that, I spent 4 years at AWS, and at AWS led their commercial sales organization in a big part of the US at a time when AWS was in many ways pioneering the cloud space and growing very, very rapidly. So the collection of those experiences and what preceded those has led me to where I am now. What I'll maybe highlight is just the difference in all those different experiences. So when I came out of school, I joined a tech company named SoftChoice and spent 18 years there and worked in a number of different cities. I was always in the camp of, hey, if the next great opportunity takes me to a new place, I'm in head first, and had the opportunity to run a number of different cross-functional groups that spanned SMB, that spanned enterprise sales, but also running marketing, running sales operations, a number of just different cross-functional opportunities that I think provided me the opportunity to then go run a business like a revenue business end to end, understanding the dependencies, the puts and takes across each of the respective functions in these groups.
Wow, that's quite a journey for you. So, as I understand, you have led teams in a variety of setups from IT services to cloud providers to SaaS organizations. What's your secret to building high performing, scalable teams that drive revenue growth quarter on quarter?
Yeah, great question. I ask myself this same question all the time. I think you got to really connect your teams with the vision of the company. First and foremost, do you believe yourself in what the company does? Do you believe in the company's mission? Do you believe in its vision, in its values? Do you subscribe to those things? And you need to land those each the respective employees within the organization. I think that's super important. Beyond that, it's what is your vision for the revenue organization? What is it we're here trying to accomplish? I think people need a bold vision to understand what they're contributing to and to understand what their contribution to that bold vision is. What does that mean to everyone in revenue? What is your position to go accomplish this? And how does that then inform how you show up? The third thing I'll say is employee value propositions matter. It is one thing to have an idea as to what you can contribute to the success of the company. It's a whole nother to know what the company's going to do for you and help you develop and help you grow and help you accomplish your career goals. So I think those three things in harmony are super, super powerful. And then you hire to those things and you are relentless in your pursuit of the traits and the attributes that you think people need to show up in that way, connected to the broader vision and what it is you want to do in revenue. And then you really push on like, here's the why, here's the how we're going to go execute these things. And you drive accountability on the what. And you have the instrumentation and all the tools necessary to drive clarity, to drive enablement, and to drive outcomes with your teams.
Wow, interesting. I'm sure, all these things sound very easy when it's coming from you, but it's a lot of hard work in all these, years of experience you have had. So over the last decade, what we have seen is, because you have been talking a lot about execution, like vision and execution both are important. Like the way you are running a 12 people company versus the way you're running a 1200 people company, all those people have to really steer the ship in the same direction. And that's why it's really important to be so much on the same page when it comes to vision. And when it comes to buyers and sellers vision, right? So over the last decade, the buyer behavior has changed a lot. I'm sure you would have witnessed the same while selling to different industries and across multiple customer segments. So how do you approach transforming the customer journey in such changing times? I mean, the way you were selling, let's say 10 years back versus the way you're selling now, do you see a major difference in that, and how has it changed?
I mean, it's changed dramatically. I mean, just think about, there was a time where I think we all came to realize like the customer can do immense amounts of research to frankly understand what it is they want, who it is they can buy it from, how it is they can buy it. I mean, that was introduced into the market over the past 15 years and has frankly changed the way customers show up. But one thing is constant, and it's selling on value. It is selling on differentiation. It is addressing what you know to be the customer's needs as defined by the customer and selling to those needs. Like that is constant. When you think about the SaaS market, just generally speaking, Bamboo in some ways had a first mover's advantage. Like it had great tech that solved real problems for its customers and grew very, very quickly as a result of that. But since then, the market has changed quite dramatically. Like when you think about how you raise capital or market entrance, we have many more competitors now than we did just 3 years ago. And COVID provoked a fair bit of that as well. So that certainly changes the way you have to show up as a sales organization. Like the needs of customers have evolved, the optionality customers have to buy have evolved. How you show up then as a revenue team has to evolve. I am so fundamentally behind just the importance of enablement and how you train reps to be great. I'm certainly passionate about if you were to think about the customer journey in its entirety as it spans pre-sale and sales and marketing and operations, all of those teams need to center on the customer and ensure they understand their position on the field to wow the customer and to differentiate the company throughout the entirety of the journey. So every week, every month, every quarter, we're thinking about how do we best serve our customer and evolve to a very quickly evolving market.
Interesting. But with ever growing, changes in the product which is happening currently, because you mentioned, sales enablement and competition, right? As the competition grows more in SaaS, the products are evolving very, very quickly, right? I mean, we used to have bi-weekly releases, but now pretty much every company has weekly releases as well. So how do you make sure that your sales enablement is up to date with that content? I mean, to train the sellers, you have a sales enablement team, but you have to really make sure that sales enablement is up to date with everything which is happening in the company, not just around product but also other customers. What customers you are closing, how are you winning those deals, what learnings can you bring to new prospects? So overall, how do you make sure your sales enablement team is always up to date?
Yeah, great question. So I view my role, when you think about the chief revenue officer role, as a bridge to
Hmm.
represent the customer and to represent what I believe the customer needs and to organize the organization around how we bring that to life. So when I think about where I'm spending my time, I'm spending equal parts time with product as I am product marketing, as I am with the sales teams, as I am with the marketing teams, as I am with enablement. And, I'm super proud of the pace of innovation at Bamboo. When you think about what we've put into market in just the trailing 3 years, it's pretty inspiring, but it's through the voice of our customers. If you think about what an SMB buyer wants, it's not to work with six partners to buy six bespoke things. It's to work with a partner that can solve problems for them end to end. And for us, that shows up in things like, well, of course, HRIS, in payroll, in bin admin, in time tracking, in performance management. They want optionality around AI and how AI can make them more efficient. Well, with that breakneck innovation comes the need to take the sales teams along for the ride. And constantly I'm thinking about, like, is our overall coverage model the right model? Like, do we need additional horsepower on discrete products to help go to market? And I think, the answer for us is oftentimes no. Like, we have a foundational belief in our teams that we can enable our teams to carry the entirety of the bag, i.e., all that we can sell customers. But that is critical then to how that shows up in your enablement teams. And the bridge between teams like product and product marketing and enablement are absolutely critical to making that happen. So we believe as we release product, there's a voice from revenue into product, and the teams are a part of that voice. And the data in CRM is a part of that voice. And as we build and as we release, the proximity of enablement with product marketing and the pace at which we enable in different forums with different curriculum types is breakneck. But we believe that is so important as you think about our speed of innovation, but as well how we show up to our customers.
Yeah, yeah. Totally. I 100% agree to you. And by the way, I'm a very big fan of Bamboo HR. I have been a user of Bamboo HR for last 10 years now.
Amazing. Manisha,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We appreciate the business.
Great. So since you were talking about, speed of execution or speed of change, which is happening in the market, I think we can't not talk about AI, right? Especially given that Bamboo HR operates in the HRMS space, what trends are you seeing around the use of AI in HR teams? And what is the impact of AI generally on employees when you think about, human resources?
Yeah, I mean, our mission is to set people free to do great work. And I foundationally believe like AI is in some ways intended to do the same thing. I'll just center on our customers for a moment. Like, if you think about what someone in HR might be doing, a lot or some meaningful amount of their time is being spent on responding to questions from their workforce, many of which are like tactical, very tedious questions. It could be around their benefits or their schedule with regards to PTO availability or company holidays, or I'm just making it up, but you can imagine that gets to be quite repetitive. And these are tasks that I fundamentally believe AI can just address. Like, you would take an employee handbook as an example, and you'd put it into AI, and an engine, which for us is Ask Bamboo HR, would allow that administrator in HR to not have to deal with those sorts of things because AI is, and it's answering the questions that people have. Beyond that, as Bamboo builds platform as opposed to product necessary for its customers, like, AI is just interwoven in everything we do around data and data accessibility and getting insights from that data, and having that inform reporting and having that inform workforce sentiment and employee sentiment. Like, all of that is what we believe to be the future of how AI can impact HR and, quite frankly, our customers, and allowing them to focus on doing great work. When you think about the revenue organization, I mean, we are running at this full speed ahead with regards to how we engage customers in text, with regards to how we prepare for customer meetings, with regards to how we learn post-sales calls and understand where we can improve in our execution and in how we show up, in how we follow up to customers, you name it. And I know we're not alone in that sentiment. I think there's great efficiencies to be had in revenue as a result of AI, but you've got to differentiate in how you use the technology the same way you have to differentiate how you show up to customers. And we certainly believe there's opportunity there.
Totally, I can 100% relate to it because that's what we do at SiftHub. The way you help employees automate their tasks or, kind of have agentic workflows which can do things for them or HR teams. We do the same for solutions and sales teams where, there are so many times there are these repetitive questions which keep on coming from prospects, or you have to understand customers pain point, you have to get those great insights from a call and combine it with the context from your salesforce notes. So instead of all doing all these things manually, they can actually do it with one click and then spend time with customers building relationships and doing creative work.
It's You have hit a niche for sure, a needed one. I am very close to the sun on this one with what my teams, the sellers, have to deal with as it pertains to preparing for customers and getting customers the information they need to potentially do business together. I think SiftHub is super well positioned to really help create efficiency for revenue organizations.
Thank you. Well, for other leaders tuning into this episode, and we have seen a lot of leaders who listen to our podcast, could you share some leadership lessons you have learned from your time at organizations like AWS, RingCentral, and now BambooHR that you think are really crucial for the next generation of leaders in these changing times?
Yeah, I mean, oh, there's so much. Like, this is not linear.
Yeah.
We drive transformation and the market drives transformation. That's not a linear path. Like, it comes with bumps, it comes with obstacles, it comes with adversity. But that's very, very valuable as you think about how you develop as a contributor, as a leader, how you show up to your customers. Like, that's where the opportunity is. That's where the growth is. But I'll maybe highlight a couple of things. You asked, in my experience, I'll highlight AWS and Bamboo. Amazon is fascinating when you think of its sheer scale, its sheer size, the growth trajectory of AWS. I mean, it became maybe $1 billion run rate business faster than any, and now it's I think approaching $100 billion. This thing's only 15, 20 years old. I mean, it's just mind blowing how quickly that's happened. And what I found to be so helpful with regards to how AWS and Amazon showed up is everything is grounded in leadership principles. So it doesn't matter if you're an individual contributor or if you're Andy Jassy, like how you make decisions, how you show up, how you engage one another, how you engage customers is always through the lens of the leadership principles. So the organization is, generally speaking, well calibrated and shows up in a way that really supports the company and its values. And that has carried through to me at Bamboo. I mean, talk about a mission driven company, a vision driven company. I mean, our set of values, frankly, inform, like I said, the way we show up, the way we engage customers, the way we support one another as teammates. And I just think for anyone who's in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership, like, these are just foundational to building healthy organizations that scale over time. Because we can all grow, but I think durable growth that drives positive morale and long-term viability is rooted in what you believe in and is rooted in your values. And for those of us who've been around the block, we can probably remember two really profound times in leadership. One of which was 07, 08, 09, when banks were going sideways and the markets were headed nothing but down. Customers all but froze budget. And if you ever needed motivation to change the way you engage a customer, like, those years were those years. That's when the pendulum really swung and it became about value because dollars were so hard to come by. And the second was COVID. I mean, we're still feeling the effects of COVID.
Yeah.
We're still trying to understand what our workforce preference is around where they work and how they work. But when COVID hit, we all had to figure out, how do we maintain productivity? How do we maintain collaboration? How do we maintain a culture when everyone's remote from one another? And that was a really trying time while we still try to serve our customers in a meaningful way. But we're better for it. And we all learned from it. So I think those experiences, both from a company standpoint, but as well as certain points in time, have really benefited me and taught me a lot over the years.
Yeah, but let's say, especially with the new generation of AEs or sellers, and this is something maybe your managers would be handling probably on a daily basis, or as we call Gen Zs, right? With Gen
Yeah.
Zs, if you have to navigate this 2007 2009 kind of a situation, what would you do differently? Because the generation is very different, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wrestle with this one, Manisha, all the time. Like I am trying to speak their language. I am trying to lead the way they want to be led. And for that generation, purpose is probably as or more important than maybe any generation that has preceded it. I think the purview they operate from is a much wider one. They're looking for impact beyond a customer. They're looking for impact that involves much wider swaths, if not global, sort of scale.
Yeah.
And when I think back to 07, 08, 09, like there was a certain scrappiness, there was a certain need to just be where necessary and to do what is necessary. Like customers were kind of pushed to the edge, as were companies, right? Like companies weren't nearly as profitable and were at times borderline having to make really hard decisions as it involved the workforce. But I think regardless of the generation, everyone has this deeply rooted motivation to be successful, I think to help and to do what's right. And I think that spans all generations. So I'm not sure this generation shows up in a time of conflict or adversity as compared to any other. I think that human spirit perseveres at some point. I do think this generation needs to be sensitive to their own development and sensitive to the opportunity that comes with proximity to others. And what we're working through at Bamboo is trying to get into balance around our work mode. And the balance right now, I feel like, is maybe a bit out of whack in that we're almost entirely remote. And for us to drive the culture that we want, for us to drive the enablement that we want, the development that these people want, I think proximity in some regard is necessary. So we're working through that transformation literally as we speak. And it's not, like I said earlier, linear. Like people have got to live it to see it, to understand it.
Yeah. I'm such a huge believer of proximity, the creativity, the all those aha moments cannot be set up on a calendar. The serendipity cannot happen by setting up a time on a calendar. It just happens when you are working as a team together. I'm such an in-person person, I would say.
Oh, tell me about it. I was doing a town hall at the groups the other day, and I'm often in our headquarters, and I travel there almost every single week, and I will literally walk the floor every day for a couple of hours. I go out of my way to do so. And people are like, well, how do you do that with regards to like the time and the needs and the meetings you're in? And I believe in those 45, 90 minutes, I have 30 meetings and they don't need to be calendared. And these are conversations I've been wanting to have, but I'm not able to have because the calendar won't allow for it. Not to mention the relationships and the kind of connective tissue that comes from it. I am so with you.
Totally. Well, last but not the least, what do you think sales and revenue leaders should expect in 2025? We have just begun the year. Any thoughts on trends we might see in the first half of the year, especially?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really exciting year. And I say that sincerely. I mean, when you think about just what SaaS has been through, frame it from the trailing maybe 3 years, like we, in a lot of ways, pulled a fair bit of demand forward in COVID, right? Like certain industries really won in COVID. And then you come out of COVID and, that demand's lessened. And SaaS companies have been held maybe in a bit of a different regard since, and a lot of that has to do with inflation and the cost of capital and all the things. So I'm bullish on 2025 from the standpoint of, okay, we know who our president's going to be. So it's just nice to have an election behind us. Inflation, as we know, I think there was another inflation print today that was largely positive, has really started to decelerate, resulting in the Fed cutting rates. And we'll see how that plays out to next year. But I think depending upon how the GDP shows up, jobs show up, and inflation shows up, like the Fed may, continue on a path even quicker than they signaled this week. All of that combined, I think, is really, really positive. And I just think you'll see economic activity pick up. And when I say economic activity, things like M&A, things like companies going public, like largely things that have just kind of been on the sidelines for the trailing few years. And I think that's good for everyone. Yeah. When you narrow in on the customer we serve, I just think there'll be job growth that'll come with confidence. I think when you think about SMBs, generally speaking, there's more confidence that'll come with the market. There's more confidence that'll come in their ability to grow, and subsequently they'll hire and they'll grow their businesses, which I think is good for everyone. And there's just undeniable market forces that are out there associated with AI. And it's so much more than hype. Like, I think of these seismic shifts that have occurred, and certainly cloud computing was the one I participated in, and it's still so relevant. And it literally changed the way that companies were able to scale and grow and build infrastructure and compete with the big guys. This is no different. And AI has a use case in every pocket of commerce. And I think that will be a big accelerant for everyone next year. So I'm really, really excited. I don't think customers are, again, wanting to do business with as many companies as possible. I think they want to pick a few and consolidate and be super efficient and focus on their customers. So I would press everyone on the need to innovate and go fast to support that need.
No, totally. I think even talking about AI, right? I think the technology is like really, really transformational. And I feel so lucky to be building in this space. Before this, it was mobile. Before this, it was cloud. Well, when it was the era of new internet, I was, I think, very, very young to actually understand the technology. But this is truly a transformational technology.
It's unbelievable. Just the way it shows up in our personal lives. We don't even know it, but it's like in every click you make, every application you engage, it is doing work you may not even understand, let alone how that shows up in businesses at scale. So very, very exciting.
Great. These were some amazing insights, Jonathan. We will go to our part 2 of the podcast, and it is basically all about getting to know you more. Try to answer as soon as you can. And, we are going to set aside work for a moment, completely aside. We are not going to talk about AI. We are not going to talk about leadership.
Okay.
We just want to get to know more about you as a person.
Yeah.
The questions will be quick and so the questions are going to be quick and to the point. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Great. A fun fact about yourself that most people don't know.
That most people don't know. Okay, I'm from Minnesota, and I am a very committed Viking twin T-Wolf fan. I'm a big-time homer. So anyone that's close to me knows that, but not all know that.
Interesting. If you could trade places with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Right now, Elon Musk, because of the exposure he now has in Washington. I feel like the guy is now stepping into leading the country in some odd capacity. So more so from a fascination standpoint as to how that guy does all he does.
Yeah. I want to just live one day of his life and see, is it humanly possible on what he does? Like, is he really human?
Yeah. How does this happen?
Yeah. When you were a teenager, what was your dream job? How did that dream evolve?
Yeah, I don't know that as a teenager I had aspirations of much. I joke with my parents that they're like, there was a time where we're like, how are we going to motivate this guy to be like a contributor to society? So whereas you probably had a plan most of your life and have been very driven and you're an entrepreneur, man, I was just like having fun with my buddies and running around like a crazy guy. The easy answer is I probably wanted to be a professional athlete based on the fame and based on everything else that came with that. And I played sports. But, as I got a bit older, I certainly became much more interested in business and became that much more interested in leading people and helping people accomplish things that maybe they didn't think were possible. I've gotten a lot of inspiration from that over the years. So where I've landed is probably much different than what I had in mind as a teenager, but I couldn't be more passionate about what I do.
Yeah, I think that's with more than 90% of the people, whatever dream job they have in when they are a kid, I don't think that really that's a thought through process. Like at some point I wanted to be an air hostess, and look at me right now, I'm a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're probably right. I would say as much about college. Like we all go and get degrees in a certain field, and then we go do something that's maybe very different from even in school what we intended to do.
Yeah. Well, the last one. What is a hobby or interest that you enjoy in your free time? Do you find that, these hobbies sometimes impact your professional life in surprising ways, which you would have never imagined?
Yeah. Yeah, I probably need more hobbies. I joke with people. I say my life is three W's. It's work, it's my wife, and it's my son Waylon. They all start with W and they comprise such a huge part of my life. But I do have hobbies. Music is certainly one. And I would say I'm an avid reader. And the way both of those things show up in my life is I'm not one that's great at compartmentalizing. Like my work is important to me, and I'm often in my mind focused on it and thinking about what I want to do and thinking about what's next. And while I think there's benefit to that and innovating and being creative, I also think there's downside to that because you're thinking about it so constantly. And I find when I engage in music, I find when I read, and I'll assume I'm in this example talking about books not related to work or leadership or management, like it frees me and it gives me the opportunity to think about things not related to what's so important to Bamboo and its future. And that's liberating in a lot of ways and allows for me to then recenter myself on work when the time is right with a clearer head. So I'll highlight those two things because they're great distractions for me and they allow for me to, take my thinking beyond just what's in front of me or what I want to accomplish in the job.
Great. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. I think a couple of things which I'm taking away from today's episode. One, I think it's never enough to keep on reiterating on this one that, even though you're a small team or a very big team, it is very important that all your team members, employees are know the vision and they are moving in the same direction. I think very, very important for the momentum. And the second one, I would say, as you mentioned, that the buyer journey is really changing a lot. And that's why sales enablement has become more crucial than ever. And how can CRO actually act as a bridge between customers and sales enablement or sellers is, I think, really, really critical. Are there
Yeah.
any final words of advice you would like to leave our audience with?
I mean, what we do, what I do, some things are always true, and people are just inherent to how we need to show up, and customers are just inherent to how we have to show up. And if you can take care of your people and they're inspired and they feel like they're being developed and a part of something bigger than just their day to day, they show up super well to your customers. And I think, frankly, when your customers feel the love and feel the value, like that's good for any business. And I don't know that that recipe ever fails, no matter what comes of AI or no matter what comes of the market, or those two things certainly matter. And I'd index there no matter when.
Yeah. Totally agree. Again, thank you so much. It was really
Thank you,
nice having
Manisha.
you.
Great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity a lot.